Okay, this is video 2 of our 3-part series of the questions that have been brought to my attention. One, first video, why I fast. 2, this video is how does it affect me spiritually? And the next one will be, what has it done for me? So we're going to touch on the spiritual aspect of fasting and how it all relates together. Because you can't fast without, well, yeah, you can. You can fast and just go all spiritual and ignore what's going on in your body, physically, mentally, emotionally. And so when you come into a place of holistic cleansing, holistic fasting, you begin seeing not only how wonderful and amazing you were created by God, but you begin recognizing little symptoms throughout, not in the physical realm, mental, emotional, as well as spiritual. And so that was my hunger. How do I, when I come into a place of fasting and cleansing, and yes, I would do it I started out because I had medical problems. So, and I took my naturopath course, right? So I began researching and experimenting with all different kinds of fasting and cleansing. But then I started asking questions. Okay, when my emotions would start to rise, it was like, what the heck's going on? Why am I so angry? And I'm in the middle of a fast. And God led me to Isaiah 58. And I love this because this is really like drawing me to dig deep in all my journals that I did during all these fasts and cleanses, all these years. And I went back to the very beginning of why I even started fasting and how it's affected me and where I am today. But I come across this one part of my journaling. It was January 2003. And I was taking a whole year, a whole sabbatical time of rest off. And we were living in Malaysia. I got all my bases covered, my teaching. I think I had to teach the book of Mark for a week. Matter of fact, yes, I remember. That's another whole story of what happened during that time with fasting. But anyway, so I took the whole year off. I had just come into a place of a revelation of who God was as my Father. I had just made amends with my earthly father, my biological father, and that's another whole story. So I was taking this whole year because I wanted to know and better understand and better experience who God was as my Father. And so I did it. I pulled off the whole year, and I did like 10-day fast and 21-day fast, 30-day fast, and then I ended the year with a 40-day, and I journaled and charted everything. So, but God showed me in Isaiah 58, why have we fasted, they say, and you have not seen it? Why have we humbled ourselves and you not noticed? Yet on the day of your fasting, you do as you please and exploit all your workers. Your fasting ends with quarreling and strife. And it was at that point, God began showing me, oh man, I'm doing all these things physically fasting, my Christian duty, so to speak. But yet my heart was so full of pain and brokenness and rejection and, dealing with different situations and relationships and anger, stress, anxiety, and it's like, oh, I was able to see these things that were taking place physically, but now it's like He's taking a little bit deeper and showing me my soul, my mind, my will, and my emotions. And so it was in this year that I took that whole year to rest. And it's interesting. I love this. I discovered in my journal, I wrote, interesting how this just happens to be my 7th year of physical diet change. And I wrote down here, it was like a Sabbath cleaning. It was letting the land rest for the 7th year. It was the 7th year of my diet change. My 3rd year of learning more about fasting and cleansing. And it's the 7th year, he says to rest the land. And back then I thought, oh, physically, rest, just like we do in the natural, physically rest the land. The farmers, you rest the land the 7th year. But now, just today, I'm seeing he was talking about my heart to come to a place of rest, this peace and rest of my heart, no matter what's going on around me. And so as I did this, I'll just point out one thing that God showed me, how all this connects, one experience I had on one of the fasts. And keep in mind, you can have experiences without fasting, but there's something about when you push that plate away and you come into a place of rest, come into a place of silence, come into a place of not worrying about what you got to cook, go grocery shopping. And, as I said in the first video, how fasting is so spiritual. There's, food is spiritual. And it's like you mention about fasting or cleansing, and whoa, like the lady said, I gave the example in the first video, how the lady said, oh, you could take away my food, or sorry, you can take away my cigarettes, you can take away my cussing, you can take away all this stuff, but don't take away my food. It's like, oh, and I see that everywhere I go. It's like there's such a stirring, there's such a protection, there's such a stirring up when you mention anything about fasting or that example of it. And so I'll real quick, let me tell you this story. It's so funny. And I'm watching my time, but I'll tell you this story before I end with what God showed me for the part of this year. But I was teaching the book of Mark this year, and I wanted the students to connect with their emotions in the book of Mark. I wanted them to step into the sandals of Jesus as we journeyed through Mark, how Jesus journeyed through his journey. And so I thought the best way that I could help them to tap into their emotions, as this is what God was showing me in all my fasting, was I'm going to tell them. I walked into the classroom, I had to teach the whole week, and I'm going to tell them, you know what, students? I've decided that this week, as I teach the book of Mark, the letter of Mark, and we go through this and journey through, we're going to fast. And then I was real silent. And I tried real hard not to laugh because it was a joke. I was wanting to test them, but I pulled back. But if you could have seen their faces, if you could have, once things calmed down and I said, okay, you guys, I'm just teasing, I'm just joking. I wanted to tap into your emotions. Oh my, when things quieted down, they were able to express the anger they had towards me. How dare I tell them to push the plate away? How dare I tell them what to put on their plate? No one's going to tell me what to do. Saw this emotional upheaval. And it just again proved over and over to me how fasting or food is very spiritual. And so it's like, that was such an experience. And then we finished out the week with, I had platters of fruits and almonds and dates and all the things Jesus might have ate along his journey as he journeyed. And as Mark tells about the journeys in that letter, so it's in that gospel. So it's pretty cool. But anyway, so that was just a taste of what fasting does, and it exposes your heart. It exposes what's in your heart, what's in your emotions. And this year, I remember on part of the 40-day fast, I noticed there was a progression, or not a progression, but a repeated theme going on, so to speak, of I'd wake up like 3 a.m. I couldn't sleep. My heart was racing. I would be like, what is going on? And then all of a sudden, about 6:30, I'd fall into a deep, deep sleep. And God revealed to me, he says, Kelly, just like in the natural and the spiritual, there needs to be a cleansing take place. That's part of our healing. Cleansing takes place first before healing progresses. Cleansing always precedes a healing. And it was like, oh man. So when I'd wake up in the middle of the night, my body was revved up. It was like running a vacuum sweeper everywhere, inside of me, cleansing and detoxing and eliminating toxins. And then I needed to rest and come into a place where I would sleep and rest and allow my body to heal, because your body can't heal unless you're at a place of rest. And not just physically, but mentally, emotionally, as well as spiritually. And as I lay there in bed that morning at 6:30, I was reading devotions. And as I was reading, I was in the middle of a chapter, and I heard the Holy Spirit say, Kelly, put the book down. And physically, I could feel my body, my heart started slowing way down. I could sense literally every fiber in my being, just everything slowing down. And I knew I was getting real sleepy and groggy, but the old me would want to push through and finish that chapter, finish reading this chapter. And I was like, and I heard gently the Holy Spirit say, Kelly, put it down. And I'm like, in the middle of a chapter? I don't care what the cost was, I was going to push through. And so I thought, okay, I'm just going to do it. I'm going to yield to this. I'm going to yield to my body. My body was telling me to rest, but my will was telling me to push on. And I was like, oh, now I can see. And so as I laid my book down, I fell into the deepest, deepest sleep. And when I woke up, God said, Kelly, that's how my spirit works. I want you to become so sensitive, not to your body just physically, but to my spirit, to hear my voice speak, to hear my gentle voice, and to be able to obey and to be obedient in such a way that I'm able, in the middle of a chapter of a book, to put it down and it's okay, and to come to a place of rest. So that is some of the things that I've learned about how it affects us spiritually, how spirit, soul, body, when you come into a holistic fast, what takes place. That you come to a place of hearing his voice in such an intimate way, overriding that desire, that hunger to eat physical food. Physical food can never satisfy a spiritual hunger. And that's what I learned in that year of 2003. So thank you again for those questions and that question. And I will work on the next video on what has it done for me. And so let's see where God leads me on that one.